Hello friends, we got a new amp on the workbench in a box here, and yeah, this amp was actually shipped to me, and we're gonna go ahead and unbox it on camera as best as I can. This is the widest angle lens I own, as high up as the camera can go, so we'll do our best here. But yeah, the amp was shipped to me, and just for the safety of the owner, in case it did receive any shipping damage, he's gonna have a record of me opening it. I recently ran into an issue where I purchased a vintage speaker, and I'm now out several $100s because the seller, yeah, it's a whole thing. I'm actually doing an entire video on my thoughts on buying vintage speakers because I've had an absolute nightmare of an experience across multiple sellers. Really only one good experience, to be honest. So more on that in the future. Subscribe if you guys want to hear me talk about that and vintage speakers. I've done a whole video comparing vintage speakers on the channel. I'm really interested in them, but yeah, they're a massive hassle. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and attempt to open this sucker up. This is a very exciting amp, and I can't wait to show you guys. I have no idea how much I'm gonna be able to show on camera. We're just gonna do our best here. So let's go ahead and get started. So we got two boxes kind of combined into one box. Looks really well packed. Some really nice high quality shipping material. It's also a record for me as well because I'm gonna have to obviously pack and ship it again. So I'm just gonna replicate exactly what he did here, assuming it arrives perfectly fine. And everything looks good so far. Awesome. All right, everything's looking good so far. Just make sure there's nothing else left in the box. Something in this maybe. Perfect. And these are all the tubes that were in that little box in there. So let's go ahead and get the big box out of the way and go through everything. All right, let's start with the tube box. Gosh, this amp is just incredible. I haven't even seen it yet, and it's just incredible. Look at that. As far as I can tell, an all original set of tubes, RCA 5881s, and a whole bunch of GE 7025s. I mean, it really doesn't get much better than that, does it? Wow, stunning. Okay, we will go ahead and just put this off to the side and grab the amplifier here. Alrighty, let's start with the transformers, as I like to do, and see what we got here. So the date codes on these are kind of interesting. So this one right here is 606128, it looks like. This one has it on the side here. 606126. So we're working with the 1961 amplifier here, and then this one is 6516. I don't know how to read the date code on that, but suffice to say, it looks all original, and I am very, very excited to see what we got on the other side. So let's go ahead and show the faceplate, because the top's covered. Look at that. We got another brown face. I guess things come in pairs, right? So we got that 61 Bassman, and now we've got that 61 Fender Super. So this is presumably a 6G4 or 6G4A. And yeah, this thing looks so cool. And as we saw with the tubes, seems all original. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what we got inside. Does it get any better than that, folks? Goodness gracious. This thing is insane. Wow, wow, wow. So yeah, there you go. 6G4. I do need to pull up a schematic to confirm, but I believe that is the code for a Super. And as far as I can tell, looking around, it is 100% original. I'm looking to see if anything sticks out to me. And first glance, I see nothing. Just stunning, perfect vintage amplifier. I mean, it's amazing. Wow. Okay. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit and kind of take a closer look at everything, because it is quite rare to get a piece like this. And I've only ever seen one all original vintage amp in this kind of range and older, and that would be my own personal Tweed Princeton. So this is quite a treat, quite a treat. And immediately Yeah, okay, we'll get to some stuff. Let's start on this side. And actually, let me pull up the schematic and just confirm. If I don't know the Supers very well offhand, and so like we saw with the Super Reverb, we looked at there's a few different versions, and weren't sure what we were working with here. Or with the Super, we were able to, Super Reverb, excuse me, we were able to narrow it down based off of a few things like the bias circuit. So that's a pretty quick way to tell. So let's go and look at what we're seeing here. 6G4A. Okay, immediately, this is not a 6G4A. Interesting. So I have the schematic here for a 6G4A, and I had this loaded up in preparation for this amplifier. And what do you notice here? This is supposed to have two caps, just like the brown face Bassman we have, the two 8 microfarad 150 volts. Well, this calls for or shows only one. And this is a 50 microfarad, 10 microfarad 50 volt. That's quite bizarre, actually. Let me see if I can flip it around this way. Yeah, 10 microfarad 50 volt. So let's go ahead and look up a 6G4 and see if that's our missing link. This is a Super, correct? Yep, Super. And again, it shows two 8 microfarad 150 volt bias caps. This very clearly does not have a setup for that, but it is all original. Looks 100% untouched. So is there another version of the Fender Super? Weird. Okay, guys, I honestly don't know. So it appears, as far as I can tell, the 6G4 and 6G4A was the only Fender Super circuit in the in this era, in the brown face era. I just did a quick Google search, so I might be wrong, and I will have to research that a bit more on my own. But at any rate, that's very interesting. So, I guess, we've seen this with more than one amplifier where the layout and schematic does not match what the actual amplifier is. So I think we'll just go ahead and work off of the 6G4, 6G4A. We'll just do the 6G4A layout here and kind of reference everything else to see if anything else sticks out as incorrect. But it should be largely the same, I would guess. And this just might be one little difference. Maybe this is something only the very earliest ones had, or not. I'm not sure. We'll have to do some research on that. But this is what I love. I love opening up the timepieces like this and kind of discovering all these really interesting elements. So let's go ahead and look at it a bit closer here. So again, we can see everything looks all original. You got the little paint on the end of the diode that they did way back when, and the single cap here. Looking over here at the well, okay, so maybe this has had some work done. Very, very little. Let me look at this a bit closer. This is already the owner already discharged the amplifier for me, but we'll just go ahead and show on screen that there's no voltage in it. So no voltage. No voltage, so we are safe. All right, so the first thing I see has to do with the power tube sockets here. Now, we've got the classic 470 ohm Allen Bradley resistor here. This is not an Allen Bradley resistor. You can see it's got that seam mark on it, and the bands are different widths. So this has been replaced at some point. It seems like it was replaced well. Looking a bit further, we have this very interesting setup here with these two resistors. Typically what you see with the Fenders when they do an artificial center tap is they will do it here to ground. They'll have like a little lug off of the transformer bolt here, and then they'll have two 100 ohm resistors going to the lug over here where the pilot light is. So this is very interesting. I can't imagine these resistors liked being soldered to the chassis very much, because obviously you need a very hot soldering iron to get to there, and these are just tiny little, half-watt carbon comp resistors. They look like they got a little roasted in the process, which is not surprising, and it's also not surprising why they sunset doing this way, because that's just not a smart way to go about it, but very interesting there. So it looks like we do have one replaced resistor here. So we've got our original bypass cap here, 2 microfarad 25 volt. Now, if I remember correctly, the 6G4 called for a 4 microfarad 25 volts. That's kind of interesting. So we will be replacing this with a 5 microfarad. Now this it does have the really, really unique harmonic trem circuit, which we've never worked on before. I've never personally heard one either in person, obviously. So I'm really excited to hear what this thing sounds like once it's all fired up and good to go. A lot of Astrons, a little worrying. So these tend to leak DC and just don't survive very well. So we do have a couple ideas, me and the owner, about what we could do if we do have some leaky ones here to try and keep this thing looking very, very clean and original as much as possible. We will, spoiler, be stuffing the electrolytic caps as well. This is going to be what I'm going to call a Restomod. So you guys, if anyone's into cars, you'll see people take the vintage cars and they will make them retain the vintage look, but then they will, really trick them out on the inside, modern suspension, modern engines, whatever else. And so they perform really well, but they look all original. So we're going to do our best to attempt resto-modding this thing. If we have to replace any resistors, we will replace with new old stock Allen Bradleys. If we have to replace any caps, we will find vintage caps. And in these cases of the Astrons, well, we kind of have 3 ways we can go about it. Step 1 would be replacing these with blue moldeds, because you can get blue moldeds in these values. 0.1s are available. Or we can purchase a modern replacement of the Astrons that is made to look like the Astrons. And the other option, one that I kind of would really like to try, because I've never seen anybody do this on any of the YouTube channels, is to try and cut one open and fit a cap in it. I think that would be really interesting, and I have no idea if it's possible or not, and it could be the dumbest idea in the world, but you guys know me. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know how I work. I like to just try things for myself and see what's what. So anyways, but everything here looks untouched to me at first glance and all original. Looks really, really good. Very happy to see this. This looks awesome. Let's just look over at the pot side real quick. See if there's anything over here. Looks all original to me. Got your Astrons. Astrons everywhere. Cool. All right, let's continue on down. So again, we got lots of Astrons in this sucker, as well as some blue moldeds, which is always nice to see. Everything looks so clean. This board, I mean, this compared to the 70s era where they're all waxy, this is just such a treat in comparison. Very different amplifiers, obviously, and very different construction methods and, quality. But you pay for it, right? These are very expensive nowadays. Yeah, everything looks all original over here. And let's go ahead and take a look at these cathode bypass caps. These are the dual 25s. And what do you see? See some gunk coming out of those? So those are goners. Now again, we will attempt to stuff those, but they're so just fat and tall that really you're not going to be able to hide, having new caps in here. Like I did for my vintage spring take project. Check that out on the channel. I stuffed caps in that one, and I was able to hide it in the caps that are more this size because you can't really see it. These are going to be a bit more obvious. I don't really have a great way of doing end caps. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know, but we will play around with that. But yeah, this just looks perfect. I mean, this amplifier is insane. And I am so honored by the owner too to be entrusted with this amplifier to, do the work needed to get it up and running and safe and really care for it, because this is a genuine piece of history. To have something like this that is completely all original, well, minus essentially one resistor looks changed. I mean, it's basically as close as you're ever going to get. Let's see. Okay, we might have another, looks like we might have another modification here. Let's see if I can get it to focus. So you can see the color bands look different between these two. So it looks like one of them is not, it looks like this one back here is maybe not, I mean, it could be an original and they just had a different resistor on hand, but these are 2 different values for sure. Let me inspect the solder joint a bit closer. No, this has definitely been replaced. The solder joints are not as nice. So 2 resistors. Wow. Oh no, better throw the sucker away. Useless piece of junk. we got two resistors. So we got one 68K and one 470 ohm. No big deal. I've got replacement resistors ready to go for both of those. If we choose to replace those, we'll probably for sure replace this one. We'll have to measure everything too and see what can stay. But man, I'm so excited by this project. This, as well as the other brown face basement that we are restoring. It's just going to be so great to have both of those up and running, and hopefully nice and clean and looking correct. I'm really really lucky to be able to work on these amplifiers, and do not take that for granted. Looks like we are missing a screw here actually as well. I just noticed that. I don't see a screw anywhere. Maybe it fell out in the box or something. We can take a look later. So we got a missing screw, a replace resistor, and some weird bias setup here that is not in any of the super schematics that I found. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end here. Obviously, the work plan, replace all of the electrical. Oh, what am I thinking? We got the freaking doghouse. Okay, let's flip this sucker around and check out the doghouse real quick. All right, reveal. Has this been worked on? Dun, dun, dun. Oh, okay, that's right. I forgot the owner had shown me this. So it has been worked on, just like we saw. We saw a couple resistors replaced, basically nothing. And then we see, again, another example, so bizarre to me. I do not understand why a tech would do this, where they only replace a couple of the capacitors. On the main filter caps here, why you would only replace 3 and leave the other 3 originals, I have no idea. Makes no sense. If you're going to replace one, replace them all, right? There's really no value in mixing and matching old capacitors and new capacitors. And we can see too, these ones are, you can see bubbling just like you see. So these are all bad as well. So, and then the date code on these, let's see, 7521L, I believe is the date code. I think this means 1975, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's old, extremely old. Do these go back that old? Sprague, Adam? I honestly don't know. I've never seen them in this yellow color before. So anyways, regardless, all of these will be swapped. Now, as far as the Restomod is concerned, if I had the original, kind of cardboard covers for all of the caps, we would be replacing all of those, stuffing all of those. Just, it's for fun, guys. Relax. I will leave a note in the doghouse cover that explains exactly all of the work done, just like I've done in other amps, so there's no confusion there. And obviously there's a video record of it as well that the owner can just provide if he decides to sell it to the next guy. But because we don't have all of them, it doesn't really make sense to just do 4 and have 4 uncovered. So the owner potentially might try and find some old covers that we can kind of put in here if they look like they'll match. But otherwise, probably this will just be the straight F&T caps all the way across the board. So, and also worth mentioning, so yeah, F&T caps here, and then Sprague caps for the cathode bypass caps. Really kind of the black, sleek, understated, high quality will be the move with this one. So with all of that, I'm really excited by this project. If you guys want to stick around, keep watching, follow along, if you will, subscribe. And if you're watching this video in the future, after it's been released for a week or something, I'm sure I have a part 2 up. I always put in the description the playlist. I create a playlist for every single amplifier I work on. So there's a history of it, and you can follow along, and I try and name them so that YouTube automatically recommends the next one. But it's not foolproof, so always check the description for the playlist to jump around to the next one you want to watch. So thank you so much for watching. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe for more. And until next time, see ya.